Welcome to today's episode of the E.N.G Media Podcast. We have a very exciting guest, Jay with VEDX. For those of you just joining the podcast, I'm Christian Gannon, the co-founder of E.N.G Media, and we specialize in helping software and tech companies scale their revenue. So if you want to learn how to take your software or tech business to the next level, make sure to stick around. So let's get right into it. I understand that VEDX helps educators and corporate trainers bring immersive learning to life using AI, XR, and spatial computing. Their turnkey VR kits, immersive software, and expert training services empower organizations to deploy job-ready, interactive experiences across K-12, higher ed, and workforce development. From soft skills simulations to virtual science labs, VEDX transforms traditional learning into engaging, future-focused education that prepares learners for the real world. Could you share a little bit more about your business and your role within it?
Sure, Christian. That's a mouthful and a lot to take in.
Of course.
So our business scales immersive technology. So in a nutshell, that means that a lot of ISV producers of software for VR headsets, XR, WebGL, they want to focus on the building that particular piece of software. The end client, the companies, job centers, training centers, schools, universities, they want the finished product to be turnkey. So
Perfect.
This is what we realized early on in our business. Immersive tech wasn't ready to be turnkey so that you could use headsets or PC, etc. So we started working with a lot of the software companies to solve that problem. And and we can deploy at any scale. Headsets arrive, if the software includes headsets, it arrives at the school or company, ready to go, branded for that school or company, for all their social media, etc. And configured to keep data anonymous. No need to set up your own private email server or emails. And there's a management platform on there to manage all of the software for your students or your employees. So, Christian, you say, Jay, I'd really like to have an immersive tech app for one of our companies. I say, great. We go over the learning objectives, and it arrives ready to go, no hassle on your side.
That's awesome. And thank you for explaining that. My explanation was probably too out of the water. So thank you for breaking it down. And to move on to our first question, from your perspective, what major trends are you seeing right now in the educational tech space?
Nervousness.
Yeah.
I'll start there.
Okay.
Both from our allies, also our competitors, and within the school districts and within the corporate offices. Everybody is sort of keeping their war chest close at hand as we face tariff uncertainty, freezing of grants, and a general nervousness about recession. Obviously, that has so many implications, knock-on implications. Reduced tax bases means reduced money for technology in the public sector, and reduced sales means that war chest can no longer be spent on, hey, let's improve our training. We need to save it for our employee base so we can make payroll. So that's overall right now, 25 is probably the most nervous I've seen the market.
Of course, of course. And in this landscape right now, that obviously seems like it's making it more challenging, but maybe on the flip side, what's it making it easier to operate in right now?
AI.
And can we dig into it a little bit?
Sure.
Of
So
course.
immersive tech pre-AI had to have a lot of scripts built into it.
Hmm.
If-then scripts and light machine learning. But now that we have OpenAI and the ability to personalize, add personality, add voiceovers and 3D objects and create 360 videos without having to go on site to shoot those videos for these bespoke applications, it has significantly reduced burden on customizing for personal learning.
Of course, of course. And kind of a follow-up to that, a big thing in the tech space right now is agentic AI. Do you guys at VEDX use any agentic AI within your operations on the operations side and not just on the deployment side?
A few of our partners are using it within the deployment side. On the operational side, we have started to use it a little bit in experimentation, but nothing that has a beta or MVP ready for looking at. We have wireframed out and are under development, invested in a company, I should say, that has a entire world of agentic AI that has been quote unquote forgotten about by humanity, and it's operated in a dimension until now where we can re-access it in a time loop. And super interesting game, but also is going to be used to help learners read again with books. And so the world of Avalar interacts with the world of human learners, and unlocking the world requires reading.
Of course, of course. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I think that's a big thing in the space right now. And I'm glad you guys are using some of it and really developing it from the grounds up because I think that's where we are or where we are right now is in
Mhm.
really early stages of it, right? We're nowhere near maturity. So thank you for touching on that. And as we specialize in marketing, we'd like to know what's it kind of been like building and retaining a marketing team and maybe even a sales team, especially with the current competitive landscape for talent.
In terms of bringing on sales and marketing, the good thing is right now is that there's a lot in the talent pool because a lot
Of
of people have
course.
lost their job over the last year and a half, and so finding somebody talented to come into the sales and marketing is not as hard of a task. However, because everybody can write an AI resume now, that's been a little bit more difficult to sift through and get the right interview. Because before you could tell with the resume, now it's very hard to tell uh, who actually has a lot of talent besides their history.
Of course, of course. And what I've been hearing with the industry is a lot of outsourcing to staffing and recruiting companies that are using like SMEs to really conduct those
Hmm.
interviews because of how much time it's taking because of Chat
Yeah,
GPT writing resumes, right?
right.
But that's a big issue in the space, and a lot of my staffing and recruiting buddies in the industry have told me that as well. So thank you for touching on that.
Hmm.
And with that in mind, in your opinion, what does the current competitive landscape look like right now for VEDX?
Uh, it's great. There's not too many competitors to VEDX. There's under a handful. And we've spent the last 5 years building partnerships in this umbrella of some of the best ISVs in the learning and training space in immersive tech. We are really well positioned. We're partners with Meta, HTC, and Pico for so we can remain headset agnostic. With that said, a lot of people choose the Meta just because of the versatility on the VR headset. Um, we are excited about our next phase of evolution in learning and training, and now we just have to kind of figure out how to navigate the nervousness I spoke about.
Of course, of course. And shifting a little bit, I know we talked about a little bit about your role within the company, but what does your day-to-day kind of look like? Are you switching between different meetings or different departments? I know as a founder or CEO, it's really tough to focus on one thing all day. So,
Yeah, it's I've got a whole rack of hats sitting next to my desk, and it
of
depends on
course.
what day and what hour I have to put a different hat on. So, as it is with a tightly ran, bootstrapped company, I wear a lot of hats, but I've got a lot of great people working that have been with us from the beginning. So, between our different business development managers in countries and across the U.S., it's been a wonderful ride.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And in all transparency, I did go on Sales Nav on LinkedIn and I saw that most of the employees have been in there since the first like 3 months of the start of your company. So that's
Mm.
awesome. And to touch on that a little bit, I did want to ask about the culture. How do you maintain that culture where people want to stay, right? And I think that's a big thing in the tech space right now is a lot of people, oh, it pays more. I'm going to go there, right? Or I
Yeah.
can get a better job or a better opportunity over there. So how do you keep people and keep that culture going?
So, again, being a bootstrap founder company, our parent company, Radio Holdings, who actually employs me to run VEDX, is a um, focused on business consulting, etc. But in terms of the culture of VEDX, a lot of the folks that work with us and for us at different times, they're not actually full time. They're with us hoping that we can transition to be able to have full time payroll. So not only do I have a lot of people who have been with us from the beginning, but they've stuck around despite not having those full time roles. And I would just attribute it to the personalities that all came together. Uh, Different walks of life. A lot of us worked together previously, and just kind of having that problem based solution culture. I don't know if that makes sense, but we all work to solve the problems, and not they don't work by my will.
Of course, of course. So you all see the vision, is what you're
Yeah,
saying, right? And the end goal of where VEDX is going to be in the next couple of years, and even in
right.
maybe even the next couple of months, right? So, and moving to our next question, when it comes to measuring success at VEDX, what financial or performance metrics matter most to your business? Is it product
Customer
usage,
success,
customer success?
customer satisfaction. Those are my biggest metrics. If The biggest barrier to VR in training and learning is actually uptake. So
Okay.
the more that we can speak with our customers and try to solve their problems daily for integrating this into a sustainable solution, that's the metric that we really gauge ourselves on. And we've had some wonderful reviews and feedback from our customers.
That's awesome. And what are you kind of hearing? Are you hearing specific learning outcomes or more on the integration side?
In terms of success, or
Correct. Yeah.
yeah, I think in both of those areas, it's been a bit challenged. Again, you deploy 25 headsets by one person rather than having a culture of adopting it. And like any
Hmm.
technology, if it's not being used, then it's not actively solving the problems you originally wanted to use it for. And so that's what we have been working on this year, to try and reverse that in a way that allows people to come to us rather than us to them.
Of course. And I think a big part of that is educating the customer, right,
Mhm.
on the value that you're providing. And I know a lot of people in the industry too are going to conferences or going to events. What are you guys kind of doing on your end to put your name out there as well as the value of your product?
We did quite a few conferences in the first couple of years, but what we found is we'd go to the conferences, and it was an expensive endeavor, and there was so much technology there that everybody gets sort of lost in what they come out of that space thinking would solve a problem, and then it's just a blur. And so we found a lot more success in just meeting with educators, asking what they need, and doing a little bit of solutions architecture with them. And then we base that in terms of getting in front of people, just reaching out in a kind of a very traditional outbound way, and having those conversations, usually from a referral.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. And looking ahead, what are your goals for the next 12 months, maybe even personally, but also for VetX?
Um, I would like to see a complete re-engineering of learning using this technology, and that requires a lot of different players that we are working on bringing together for a very specific learning center in the United States. So
That's awesome. And do you guys have kind of a timeline when that learning center is going to get set up, or it's just kind of in the works right now?
it's all in the works.
Gotcha. Okay. And my last question, and it's kind of a tough one, but a fun one. If you had a magic wand and could solve just one problem within your business, what would that be?
Magic wand solve one problem in my business. Um, Oof. It's tough because you either solve a systemic problem or you solve a day-to-day operations. Obviously, every business is going to say sales. Let me wave my magic
Hmm.
wand and have a wait list for sales. Okay.
Of course.
So, but on a systemic viewpoint, I would wave my wand and allow everybody to give this technology a try for the problem they want to solve, whether it's soft skills training, career exploration, uh, educational material like science or math, and just give it a try with their curriculum alongside the AI integrations for their learners. And then I wouldn't have to worry about sales, because once you try it, you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
Of course. And out of curiosity, do you guys do demos and stuff like that? Like if someone's listening to this and they are interested in trying it, how would that kind of look like?
Absolutely. We do a couple of different types of demos on our website. You can see under professional services. We can come out and do professional development for teachers, that or corporate onboarders for AI and learning and onboarding with immersive technology. We can ship a demo headset out after kind of coming up with solutions architecture for the problems you're trying to solve, because we configure each of our demo headsets before sending it out to the client. And we can do conferences. So if somebody was having a conference and wanted us to come do a work session, we do that.
Awesome. Awesome. And if people want to connect with you or learn more about what VEDX is doing, where can they go and how could they connect?
www.vedx.io, VEDX.io. And they can connect there directly, book something on our calendar for demo, or just peruse the software and the ready-made kits for their business or school.
Awesome, awesome. And I will leave the link to their website in the description. I checked it out before we hopped on. It's super interesting. It really breaks down what they're doing, even for someone that's outside the industry like me. So I would recommend you go check it out. But other than that, thank you again, Jay, for your time and insights today. And we will see you guys on the next podcast.